Good afternoon. We are live on Facebook. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Beth Copeland with Georgia Christian Business Network, and we're putting God back in business. It's Wellness Wednesday. So glad to see you guys today. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, we're talking about something that I believe is critical, and I have a wealth of experience through going through some challenges in relationships. And today, this entire month, we're actually focused on the importance of building sound relationships and the impact of that on your emotional well-being. And did I say that right, Pamela? I don't know if I said, but in a gist, yeah. So the opportunity today, we're going to deep dive a little bit and help you to understand the impact of your relationships on your business, on your life, on just emotional well-being, on your mental health and wellness as well. I'm so excited to have Pamela Bridgeman Bartell as our co-host, our licensed professional clinical social worker. And I'm just so excited, Pamela, what you bring to this program. And I want to thank you for the work that you do at A Healing Journey. I'm going to allow you that opportunity to introduce yourself, but I also like to also mention about the importance that she brings to Georgia Christian Business Network, not only through serving on this Wellness Wednesday platform and donating her time, but also she's a corporate sponsor of Georgia Christian Business Network. And I can express to you how important that is to me personally and to the GCBM family. So I just want to say thank you, Pamela, for all you do for us. We appreciate you. Would you please share with the people?
I want to invite other people to become sponsors of Georgia Christian Business Network. It is good. The Bible talks about sowing into good soil, and GCBN is definitely good soil into which your business can sow. So I invite you to do that. I am Pamela Bridgeman Bartell. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I also hold credentials as a certified master addiction counselor and a certified clinical trauma professional. I've been providing compassion care since 1976, either as a social worker or as an ordained minister. As Beth mentioned earlier, I do own a practice here in Northwest Georgia called A Healing Journey Counseling and Consultation. And we do treat mood disorders, but we're also focused on trauma-informed care. As United States Air Force veteran, I have a particular interest in supporting veterans and their families. And so that's one of the larger populations that we serve here at the Healing Journey.
Awesome. Awesome. I love the title that you, for the entire month, to be honest with you. I just love to talk about relationships because I have had some very productive and still have relationships, but I've had some fails, Pamela. When I was looking at your notes and I was just processing and thinking. And so I asked God to let us just be as transparent as possible to help people to understand the importance of developing sound relationships, healthy working relationships, even in corporate and in business, but also personal relationships as well. So I'm just going to turn it back to you and just let you kick us off.
And we all have had relationships that have needed to be shorn up. You know, relationships take work, and oftentimes people don't want to put in the work. But if you're going to have a productive, healthy relationship, it takes work. The other thing is that in order for your relationship to be healthy, each individual within the relationship has to be emotionally and mentally healthy. That's whether it's a personal relationship or a business relationship. We've talked on this platform before, Beth, about how if you are in a corporate environment and leadership is not as sound as it should be, how it impacts each individual's work output, and ultimately it impacts the product. It impacts the productivity of the individuals, and ultimately it impacts the business and how well the business does. So healthy individuals make healthy relationships. We're talking about trust and commitment today, but I need to go back to last week where we talked about the importance of the foundation. Every building starts out with a foundation, and relationships start out with a foundation of love. And we talked about that last week. We talked about how love shows up, whether it is filio, which has to do with friendships, whether it is eros, which has to do with romantic relationships, whether it is agape, which has to do with our spiritual relationships, or all storge, which has to do with family relationships, or relationships in your business. They all depend on love, and we talked about that last week, about love being patient, love being kind, love not even in the workplace, love not keeping a record of wrong, which is very different from obviously if you're in human resources and you have to do that's corporate. You have to put a person on some kind of a remedial
performance
plan.
evaluation or something.
But not keeping a record of wrong in terms of always holding over somebody's head when they have failed, because ultimately it causes them to not want to do better. So it has to be there. This foundation of love has to be there. You've got to say that.
No, I was just going to say what you were distinguishing between the opportunity to keep the records and tracking for performance evaluation is much different than what you're talking about.
Correct.
And it's not so much for wrong, it's for a corrective action.
Correct.
Those things are often viewed in the negative, but you're tracking because for progress also, not just, And
it's actually about helping you to affirm
to grow
when you've done better. So when you've got that foundation there, that solid foundation there of love, then you begin to erect the pillars. And the main pillars that you have to erect in a relationship are trust and commitment. Trust and commitment. If you don't have solid pillars, it doesn't matter how sound the foundation is. It's not going to hold the roof up.
No,
right?
No, it's going to crumble. Yeah.
So you have to have sound pillars. And I want to define those two words because I want us to go into the nuances of it. So these are just basic Merriam-Webster definitions. Nothing deep, just basic definitions. Okay? So the first one is trust. Trust is but I want you to listen closely, firm belief in the character, ability, strength, or truth of someone or something. It's a firm belief. If I trust you, I believe firmly in your character. I believe firmly in your ability, in your strength, your intestinal fortitude, in your truth, that you're going to be truthful. It's a person, you are a person. If I trust you, you are a person in whom I can place my confidence.
Mm,
Got that?
mm.
It's about character. And we've talked about character. A
Yeah,
sound
yeah,
relationship is built on persons with solid character traits.
yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
the
Oh,
next
man.
definition is commitment. And it is the quality of being dedicated to a cause. It's devotion, allegiance. You talked about this next one last week, Beth. Loyalty,
Loyalty. Yeah,
faithfulness, and fidelity.
yeah,
Right? Commitment, devotion, allegiance, loyalty, faithfulness, and fidelity. And a solid relationship is built on the base, the foundation of love, with pillars of trust and commitment. And next week, we're going to be talking about communication. And that's where I'll be talking about the various rooms in the sound relationship house. And by the way, so that I'm not plagiarizing, know that a lot of what I'm going to talk about is coming from the work of John and Julie Gottman. John and Julie Gottman did longitudinal studies on, they were studying marital relationships. And over the
uh-huh.
last years, it have come to understand that the things that they found in studying marital relationships apply to any relationships. And so a lot of what I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be talking about today is based on the work of John and Julie Gottman.
Awesome.
Their most famous work, or the work that talks about their research, is the 7 Principles of Making a Marriage Work. That's the book
Mm.
that details the research that they did. 7 Principles of Making a Marriage Work. And the most notable concept they developed, and this is when next week I'm going to be talking about communication, is the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse of a relationship.
Oh, wow.
Which, yeah, contempt, defensiveness, criticism, and stonewall. But we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, awesome. Looking forward to that too. Yeah.
So, as Christ followers, Beth, we understand the importance of trust and commitment. I want to read 2 powerful scriptures about trust and commitment, and I want to get your insight on them before we move forward. The first
Awesome.
one is Psalm 37, verses 5 and 6. And I'm reading from the New Living Translation on both these scriptures. And it says,
Awesome.
commit everything you do to the Lord. Trust him, and he will help you. He will make your innocence radiate like the dawn, and the justice of your cause will shine like the noonday sun. So when trust and commitment, commit everything to him, trust him. When trust and commitment are present, look at what happens.
Wow.
Justice, you shine. Prosperity, productivity. Okay, the next scripture is Proverbs 3 and 5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Again, trust and commit. Not depending on your own understanding is committing to him. Seek his will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take. Trust and commitment leads to a good path. Let me hear from you, Ms. Beth.
My life verse, and I'm going to deal with Proverbs 3, 5, 6 verse, is just that. Trust in the Lord with all of thine heart, and lean not unto thy own understanding, but in all of thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. Then when you talk about Psalms 37, 5, I love that one too. I started the 3rd verse because it starts off just like trust in the Lord, and it goes on to say, and do good. Now, when you're asking me to chime in here, it's so important because, Pamela, as I said, I've failed in some relationships because it's misplaced trust. trust starts with trusting in the Lord.
Mhm.
And when we are connected, like you trust the Lord, I trust the Lord, we have a good relationship. Have we had some tough conversations? By all means. But mostly opportunity, because we understand foundationally that both of us trust God. And when you're connected with people that are like-minded and you both trust God, and that's your foundation for trust, I believe, then you have the great opportunity to build, and you can have hard or challenging conversations and move forward. But I want to say they're not that many, because we have an open relationship that we're all the time. We don't, feedback is timely, and that happens when you trust God, because you have the other person's best interests at heart. And
Right.
so what I'm saying about trust, and the way I feel about it, and why that's my life first, is that you understand that if trust in the Lord is your foundation, then you can build trustworthy relationships out of that. There are people that are trustworthy because they have that foundation of a trusting relationship with God.
Let
Does that
me,
make sense?
yeah, but let me point something out there that you just said. You said the person is trustworthy. And
Uh-huh.
that goes back to a point that I was going to make a little later. And that is that trust comes out of commitment, because you have to show yourself trustworthy. And you can only do that over a period of time. And you can only have a period of time if you are committed. And so
Yeah.
trust comes out of commitment. You
And,
have to
and
be committed to the relationship in order to develop trust,
I
because
agree.
you have to be trustworthy in order. Trust is not bequeathed, it's not just given. Trust is earned.
You've
And
got to
a
earn
lot
it.
of people don't understand that. They think you should just trust them because. No, I don't
Mm-mm.
just trust you because. Remember up here, trust has to do with the definition, character, ability, strength. I've got to see your character, right? I've got to understand that you have fidelity before I am able to place my trust in you. It's not just
Yes,
given, it is earned. And
yes,
it's earned over a period of time, which means you have to be committed for the long haul.
right, right. And when you, my take on 37.5, the commitment piece, um, and I also made a mention when I promoted us, and invited people to join, is I believe what everybody says, the catchy network e- equals net worth. But I focus more on relationships equal revenue. And the reason that I really highlight that more so than the network equal net worth, because yeah, of course, the more people you know, maybe the possibly the more opportunity that you'll have to do business with them. But the more sound relationships you develop, you're building your reputation. Not to discount the opportunity for networking to build reputation, but relationships, what we're talking about, strong healthy relationships. People, when they're in relationships with you, there's that commitment to you that Pamela's talking about, is understanding a proven opportunity that you've spoken something and you kept your word. Commitment is important to developing trust, because if I'm proven that I'm a person of my word, that I'm a person of commitment, that I say what I do and I do what I say, that I have the opportunity to follow through. And when, because I'm human, that I do not, I recognize that, I make uh, restitution for that. I give an account for myself, so to speak. I'll say, apologetically, this is what happened, and I'm sorry that it happened, but this is what caused it to happen, so to speak. And
Right.
so that makes a person feel better about just ghosting them or just not saying anything. You know what I'm saying? That is so important. Commitments, yeah, sometimes they have to be broken, but it's how you break them, why you break them, what's your modus operandi, if you would.
There's commitments, and then there's the commitment to the relationship.
Yeah,
I
like that.
I want to
That's
distinguish
good.
that, because
That's
there
good.
are times that, let's say, I say, and Beth, this has happened. I say, Beth, I will be down there at,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll be at Lawrenceville, and I end up can't making it to Lawrenceville.
Right.
I didn't keep that commitment.
But
You know
yeah.
that I'm committed to our relationship.
Oh gosh, that is so good.
That's what
That is
you
so good.
apologize for, right?
Pamela,
Okay.
that is so urgent. I've never heard that put exactly like that, but I want to just say that is so urgent because people have deal breakers because people don't keep the commitments. But then the commitment to the relationship needs to be recognized. What is it that I know to be true about Beth or Pamela in my situation from what you just explained? What do I know about Pamela? She is committed to me in our relationship, and I'm committed to her. And so, her not being able to follow through on that particular commitment does not impact negatively our relationship. I'm going through my head now. I got 2 or 3 of those fails that I told you about. Is because people fail to
To distinguish
recognize.
the two. To distinguish the two. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. That's it. And the thing about it is unfortunate because we're playing out so many things that are coming in my head that come into play is feelings and wrongs and whatever, and I place myself to be a part of the equation, and I need to remove myself out of the equation because if I continued along with what you threw out, what was the reason behind Pamela not being able to come to support whatever it is? She had challenges on her end. And so when I push myself up and allow my commitment to become to me rather than to Pamela, and not trusting, if you will, what we've already built in our relationship, then the onus is on me.
And we get to talk about this next week when we talk about communication. It's because we have failed to communicate the depths of our relationship to one another. We failed to communicate the importance, we failed to communicate how it is that we
Can I tell you something that you said last week? And then, and Bianca, thank you so much for joining us and supporting us today on Zoom and on our stream into Facebook. For those that are maybe present or may watch the replay, we're so happy that you are participated in this session because it's so important for us to understand healthy relationships and to seek and purpose to develop those. But something you said last week, Pamela, and when Bianca led our family call a couple of weeks ago about vulnerability, and you mentioned it last week, it is so urgent that we understand that when we're developing relationships, that we understand that at some point that we need to develop vulnerability opportunities because that does nothing but allow the person, and I'm going to let you come from a clinical standpoint because we have to be very careful. And then I'm also looking at the business side of of just throwing yourself out there and sharing stuff, and there's not safe places. Because I've developed a saying sometimes, and you can push back on this as well, but less said is sometimes best said, in exploring. And so I'm not contradicting myself about being vulnerable, but understand that there's opportunities as you develop relationship, that vulnerability needs to come into play, and you need to be more transparent.
So we talked about vulnerability as an important part of love last week, but we also understand that there's boundaries, that you have to maintain healthy boundaries as well. There, until you understand whether or not a person's love is genuine, and that's in personal relationships or business relationships, then you really do have to, the scripture says, guard your heart. Guard your heart, because otherwise you can become exploited. And exploitation definitely can cause emotional and mental distress.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted you to definitely follow that, so that no one goes out saying I need to expose my heart more or expose more myself, but you've got to be wise in your interactions with people. Yet at the same time, what we have to recognize is that people, even in new relationships, I'm thinking of Angie Sell. I had a wonderful conversation with her and her team on yesterday afternoon. And I just met this lady. She's the blinger lady. You can Google her, Angie Sella, the blinger. And she had a dream about putting crystals in folks' hairs, and she goes around blinging people. As a matter of fact, she's going to be blinging at God Golfing Girls in August, because she's, along with Pamela Bridgeman Bartell, is one of our sponsors for God Golfing Girls this year. But the opportunity, the reason I bring her name up is because I just met her at the same time that you met her, Pamela, and conference calls leading up to the Christian Chamber of Commerce Central Florida Kiwa event, Kingdom Women of Tomorrow, that we all were on the platform together last October in Orlando. Well, the opportunity is on the calls, although we got familiar with the people, we shared a lot. I didn't know that Angie was making note of me, or that I was having any impact whatsoever on Angie more than anyone else on the call. Anybody. I never thought anything other. I was there for a purpose, and we were focused on the business at hand. But we get to Orlando in October, and I get a call from her and said, Beth, Copeland, where are you? I'm here. I want to treat you for dinner. And long story short, I just told you face to face. I met her in October for the first time, face to face. But now she's a sponsor, and this is February, of God Golfing Girls. What I'm trying to say is it doesn't take people long, if they have that trust factor with God, and if you present yourself as a person of integrity, commitment that Pamela's talking about, people that trust God and He speaks to them will in turn be able to determine whether or not, like Pamela's saying about how you develop trustworthiness, if you're trustworthy and you're somebody, because I believe that if we are just focused on what God's called us to do, who God's called us to be, people will see what we truly are about and want to be in relationship with us. We may be baffled about it, like, okay, Angie Sell me, but not to discount myself, but to understand you don't realize the importance of walking in trust and commitment to bringing relationships that can bring the revenue that you need. Now, don't focus on, oh, Angie Sellers on this call with me, the blinger lady. Wonder if I could meet her in October. And if I can meet her in October, what does that mean for GGG? or God Golfing Girls or Georgia Christian Business. Never once thought of it. Never once. So if you focus on developing the relationship out of truth, out of a trustful, because I believe to establish trust in a relationship starts with truth.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's naked truth, if
Remember,
you will.
the definition
Yeah.
has to do with character and yeah, fidelity,
Yeah.
loyalty,
Yeah. Yeah.
loyalty,
Yeah. Yeah. Because
faithfulness.
I want to know that you're going to be truthful with me, that you're going to tell me the truth, no matter what. I believe when people tell people the truth, they have their best interest at heart. And we're to season the truth in love, of
I was going to
course.
say, just speak
Yeah,
the truth in love. You're right.
right, right.
But speaking the truth definitely is an indication of integrity. And integrity
Yes.
is one of the components of, of trustworthiness.
Right, right. Awesome. God is so good. This is great. This is wonderful.
Well, actually, it's only 12:34. I'm at the end of my notes, though. And the last thing that I said, one of the reasons that commitment is powerful is because it makes the difference between failure and success. No matter what area of your life there is, if you're not committed to it, you're not going to be successful, right? It affects how you feel about yourself. It affects how you feel about other people. You have to be committed. When we fail to be committed, we fail our integrity. And our self-esteem is diminished, our integrity is diminished, and yeah, we can't be trusted if we don't commit.
One of the things that I think for relationships that the fail piece of it is what you just said about commitments. As a business owner, it is imperative that you're true to your commitments. The opportunity for you to not follow through on something that you committed to as a business owner, especially with a customer or a client, can be detrimental to your future business, not only with that particular client, but the opportunities that you would have gained in referring that client to other people, that client referring you to other people for potential work, and the detriment of how they'll speak with you in relation to your reputation is going to be harmed.
So even I have contractors who work for me, and I've had to let contractors have to ask contractors to not work when they have not been able to be committed. If I have clients who show up here several times and you forgot that they were on your calendar, that's not, when they go out, they're not going to say so-and-so contractor is not a good place to find services. They're going to say a healing journey is not a good place for services. So it's my brand and not you that's going to suffer because of your lack of commitment.
Yes, yes. That is so good. And when I say about revenue equal relationships, and I use Angie as an example, Angie had an opportunity over a period of 6 months prior to be on a conference call with me. Although I don't ever remember us speaking directly in that 6 months period of time, you were there, Angie and I never directly one-to-one dialogue that I recall. But you never know how someone's watching you, is what I want to say to people. Uh, they may be admiring you at a distance. People are often attracted to what you do more than what you say. What do you say about that, Pamela?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, actions speak louder than words. I mean, um, there's nothing more I can say about that. I mean,
Yeah,
people,
yeah,
it obviously is what you do when you say one thing and you do something else. That kind of dissonance uh, causes you to not be trustworthy as well. Because I'm looking at you say one thing and do something else, that could cause a lack of trust. But also, if you don't say a word, but you go out and you do something that is
hmm,
fantastic, you're absolutely right. People are like, yeah, I saw what that person did. I can trust that person because I've seen, how they behave. It's not words. I've seen it.
excellent. And what I was asking you for, your comment on that, merely because what if it's someone you haven't been on a call with for 6 months? You know what I'm saying? And what they referrals in business is what I'm saying. What is proven about you? I may call you up and say, have you had any associations or dealings with
Right.
this particular individual? And so I don't know you, but because I have this relationship with this other individual that has interacted with you, and I trust
It gives you
their,
legitimacy.
yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to say. And the opportunity for revenue out of those relationships, oh my God, I can't tell you the opportunities where I've had people refer other people to me for my business, for connection. And don't discount connectivity. And be careful, the word tells us this, how we entertain strangers.
Right.
And Pamela, yesterday, Dr. Don was on, you were on the platform as well, to hear how powerfully she present the question behind the question. And I think everybody needs to hear that, because one of the things she highlighted starting off is, how are we, why are we asking, what's the, I threw out motive and she added intent for the question. So what do you do? You're just meeting somebody, and the whole thing is you initially ask, so what do you do? What is the motive and the intent behind that? Because often we have a tendency to size people up, to say, to qualify them, so to speak, for
Right.
definite. Yeah,
I
for
love the way
definite.
she I love the way she did that too. Motive and intent. You know, it seems it's a nuanced difference, but it's a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. What's the difference? Um, but at any rate, I love where we're going here with relationships this month. We've had a great couple of weeks discussion on this. We're going to continue, as you said. Next week is going to be
Looking
about
at communication.
looking at communications, and I think that's going to be impactful for definite. So I'm so excited about what God wants to do through the double this year. And so, what I'd like to do at this point is just talk about what we have upcoming on the Georgia Christian Business Network platform. Next week is such a great opportunity for us when we look at the review. Heather Rossum, she is Irresistible Business Blueprint, Double Your Impact. And I'm so excited about that, because Heather and I have a powerful announcement on the platform about the National Association of Christian Women Entrepreneurs, which that is another brand of business that she has, not only the Irresistible brand, but also, you know, opportunity for us to learn more as women how you can get connected to a great organization. So I want to invite you to our Take Charge Tuesday platform, where Heather Rawson out of Tucson, I'm sorry, is our guest presenter next week, and to expect some awesome announcements as a result of that engagement. Also on Wellness Wednesday, Pamela has already shared with you what you can expect. We also will be announcing next week about some meet and greets on site for Georgia Christian Business Network, not only in Middle Georgia, but also here in Gwinnett, that are upcoming. Already have them labeled and ready to go. We just need to get it out there to you. I really want to thank everyone for joining the call today. I'm watching the replay. We really want to assist you, to be that catalyst that you need to help you propel forward in business and in life. Visit our website, gcbnetwork.com, to learn more about the great things that we're doing. We're doing a good work. We often say, like Nehemiah, and we won't come down. We knock on tall doors and God answers. So we hope that you'll look at gcbnetwork.com for an opportunity to look for ways and identify how you can become a member, how you can become a sponsor. So excited to greet you soon. Reach out to us if you need information, info@gcbnetwork.com. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye now.